So hello and a very, very warm welcome to Herbal India. This evening, the show is going to be very interesting because we are talking about music. We are talking about how musicians have felt the brunt of pandemic. They're dealing with pandemic, but it has not really have a very good effect in many cases, though it also had its own share of delight as well. Today, again, very, very esteemed speakers with us, two very wonderful, talented women. I introduce them. I have Priya Barjatya Dhingra. She's the head of Barjatya Art and Culture Trust. She's just started Petmantraa, which is her online pet concept, which she has also been running, but her heart lies in music, and she is going to talk about all these things when I speak to her next. But another speaker, Aastha Goswami, is a vocalist and she practices classical music. So Priya, the first question is, I was trying to understand that has pandemic muted the music all around the world? How do you see, music industry as such being hit, especially classical music?
I would start by saying that musicians lost a key part of their craft, which was the stage and the audience. The folk musicians, artists who were solely dependent on the concerts, this is all they knew. So it was very difficult for them to, think of what next, what they can do. So they probably switched over to the digital medium. I would say digital medium is very good for the upcoming budding artists, but is not an easy thing for everybody. I know many classical singers, they did a lot. They started teaching online. They started doing concerts online. Even at Bhartiyam, we did this Ragas for Yamuna too, where there were artists and we were doing online concerts. Everybody, I guess, did their part in whatever capacity they could. But definitely, I mean, we all want to be out of it, because when you say a digital online medium versus a live audience, that energy that is lacking when it comes to online. I can only see, that I'm online, I'm talking to the camera, but I'm not talking to the audience.
How right you are, Priya. Actually, you're talking about that deep connect that a musician has with the audience, the warmth that one shares. And that's what I'm going to talk to Aastha about. Aastha, what do you feel that this connect that happened, the tunes were not about just between one person and a group of people, but a group of people, actually a team looking at creating music and then giving it live to the audience. What would you say about that, Aastha?
I think I would like to continue from where Priyaji left, that we as artists have been missing that, communication. While when we perform on stage, then when we have the live audience, then singing in front of the live audience and singing in front of a screen. I mean, that is the main thing that we have been missing as artists. That stage we have been missing. We have been missing the live concerts, the feel of having an audience in front of you and then performing for a live audience. So it's a completely different experience altogether. But then I would also like to say that initially, when the lockdown started, we were not really ready to, perform online. So because when I got my first invitation to perform online, I thought, what is this dressing up and singing in front of the screen? I wasn't ready for it. But then I didn't have any other option. So, but to accept it. So I accepted it, but when I did it, I did enjoy it. And Priyaji, as you said, the one thing that I really liked about online performance was that, see, if it's a live performance, you can have around 100 people, 50 people, or, depending on the capacity of the auditorium.
When it's online, there is no limitation as
viewership. And I was actually very, very excited to see the first figure as 10K.
Aastha, you're giving a new dimension to us, a new dimension, which is also a new reality. So you're talking about how we have shifted actually to the digital realities. Priya, what would you say about that? Because on one hand, we would say the classical part then would kind of see a little low down there. But here we have new realities being accepted, as Aastha is saying.
I would absolutely agree with what Aastha ji is saying, that, there are pros and cons of everything. But then again, there's a saying, when life throws you lemon, you either make a lemonade or start. So I would say start juggling with it. So I guess musicians, they've started wearing different hats, and then they were, when they were, making a video with a tripod and sitting in their own room, and they were their own makeup artists, they were their own composers. Many musicians have started writing and creating their own original content, and making music, recording, which was not easy. Which always they were relying on somebody else to do it for them.
Okay, yes, sure. Yes. But let's also now talk about another side to it. And I'm now shifting my focus to the folk artists, independent musicians. They were earning their living out of the concerts they did, out of these performances that they went out, let's say, abroad to. What would you feel that how the pandemic has actually hit the revenue part as well?
Rakhee ji, the folk artists have been among the worst hit, because there have been so many cases where I have seen, I mean, people known to me as well. I mean, there have been so many cases where they had to change their profession, they have to change their career and do something which they wouldn't have done otherwise, you know, to earn their livelihood, to earn their living. I mean, I know my tableist, he had to open a grocery shop. And he says, what is the point? I don't get time to riyaz now. I'm just busy selling items in my shop, but I have no other option. But this is the only way I can survive. So this is just one example to quote. There have been so many such cases where, you know, and especially the folk artists.
So Priya, since you're also supporting many of these performers, musicians, you know, you've been doing that job and under the trust that does that actually. So how have you viewed it like that? Because the numbers, for example, the volume which was there, do you see that kind of shrinking a little bit because of course, there is a new digital avatar, but the traditional ones would take a back seat?
I would say the main revenue model for musicians, they are not the trusts and the NGOs for sure. We also got some very good artists who were ready to perform, but then the kind of amount they were asking for, and which is perfectly fine. And there were few very good A-line artists like Radhika ji. She performed on the Bharatiyam platform online, where there were about 3,200 viewers worldwide. And she did it for the cause. There has to be a sustainable income, the viability. So for becoming viable online, there are many things. And then to do the digital ads, the Google ads, it costs a lot. And not everybody is well versed with this digital new thing. So everybody's waiting for the pandemic to be over.
Priya, would you agree here that, you know, this also was a time actually to work on yourself? And as it happened in the movie industry as well, people started to look at new ways of expressions or creative endeavors. Would you also agree here?
OTT is a big example for the movie industry. Yeah, the Netflix and everything. The whole system and scenario has changed. Now, even if the pandemic, it goes, people still would be hooked onto Netflix because they can watch things at their own pace.
Yes.
मैं आप आस्था जी जो कह रही थी, मैं हिंदी में थोड़ा ये बात करूंगी कि जो ट्रेडिशनल म्यूजिक के वोटरी हैं, एडवोकेट है, वो ये शायद ये कहें कि वो सारी चीजें जो माहौल होता था कि जब हम साधना और रियाज करें और सब लोग मिलके करें, और मैंने गुरु शिष्य परंपरा की भी बात की, तो वो आपका उस पे क्या कहना है आस्था जी की? क्या आप जैसे स्टूडेंट्स के साथ बात कर रही हैं, उसमें क्या फर्क आया, वो मैं आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ।
फर्क ये है कि जब गुरु शिष्य परंपरा की क्योंकि आपने बात की है, तो वो 1-on-1 ट्रेनिंग जो होती है वो तो ऑनलाइन ट्रेनिंग में किसी सीमा तक ही संभव है, और जो ताल पक्ष है वो तो हम कर ही नहीं सकते। वो तो सबसे ज्यादा मुश्किल तो वही होता है, द रिदम पार्ट, क्योंकि लैग करता है। जैसे यहाँ पे एक बीट आई तो आप तक देर में सुनाई देगी, तो रिदम उसकी लिमिटेशंस हैं। पर मैं आपको यही बता रही हूँ कि उनकी लिमिटेशंस के परे हमें देखना है ना। इनिशियली आई वाज आल्सो लुकिंग एट इट फ्रॉम दैट पर्सपेक्टिव कि अरे ये नहीं हो सकता है, वो नहीं हो सकता है। पर हाँ, डेफिनेटली गुरु शिष्य परंपरा में तो 1-on-1 ट्रेनिंग ही होती है, तो वो तो किसी हद तक ही संभव है, पर वो हो रही है। जब कोई और संभावना ही नहीं है तो जो यू हैव नो अदर वे बट टू एक्सेप्ट द ऑनलाइन, द वर्चुअल medium that is there for you.
Okay. Yeah. Do you somewhere think, Priya, and I would come to the part that Herbal India would look at, is that do you think somewhere that being a woman performer also mattered? हालांकि हम लोगों ने realities नहीं accept की, digital mode में गए, सीखा भी, but do you think कि ये कहीं ना कहीं कोई factor रहा या आपके हिसाब से नहीं रहा?
I would not say that, there was a major impact on the women musicians as such versus male. Everybody faced the same kind of brunt. Very well shared actually,
about that. और क्या आप कहेंगी कि हमने क्या सीखा, क्या खोया, क्या पाया? कि अगर बात करूं आस्था जी, what would you say? That of course, this whole crisis, as we say, leads to innovation, innovative techniques, new ideas also come up because we are in a closed space as far as lockdowns were concerned, the pandemic as a whole is concerned. But what would you say, what are our learnings in general, and how in the creative industry, especially in the music industry, will go ahead?
Yeah, see, as I mentioned that I sort of created my own studio. So I think I have become more computer savvy. I have learned a lot of how to handle mics and how to record. So these are my learnings. These are the things that I have learned.
Which is only good for you. That's upgrading yourself. In fact, I can tell you, and I think many of us can relate to that, that on the, social media or some other digital platforms, we saw a lot of music coming in. In fact, a lot of these platforms, when we scroll, we see rock singers, many other things that there are new, men, women, young people just singing songs originally. And some of them have actually caught the eye, and some of them have been part now of some of these reality shows. What would you say, Priya, that, new talent also has been found?
Yeah. Instagram, if you'll see. Now the reels are so much easy to make. People sing, people dance. They make the new reels, and the highs, I mean the subscribers, and then they are connecting with the audience. So I would say it's been a very good period for the new budding artists. But seriously speaking, the artists who were relying on the live concerts, it was not easy for them, because the whole livelihood, the sponsors were not there during this period. The movies, they came to a halt. All the everything was like, it came to a halt.
Studios were shut. So many people actually, as you're rightly saying, shifted to other genres or other sectors. Yeah.
So when it comes to enriching yourself, it's okay. I mean, we are just trying to make best use of, make the best of what we are getting. But for the artists to earn money out of music industry as such, revenue generation, that was a problem. That is a problem. I mean, we are all waiting for pandemic to go back so that, we can get back the sponsors, corporates to, invest in this kind of industry, because this is focus is shifted. Focus is now on...
Yeah, in fact, I can share that some of these festivals, for example, which also had musicians coming in, so many such events and programs which had musicians there, that kind of got curtailed also. As an observer, I can say that.
Yeah.
So I also want to ask someone, anybody who wants to ask a question can raise your hand or just go ahead and ask your question. You have two such wonderful, talented women who've given their time and energy to the music industry, and they themselves are practicing it so well. So anyone?
Can we have the great artist sing one song?
I thought somebody should say that.
Yeah, so my throat is not too good today.
That's all right.
So I'll dedicate this to Lata ji, and this is one of my favorites from the film Dastak, Bhaiya Na Dharo.
That's one of my favorites. Thank you.
बहुत सुंदर है. Bhaiya Na Dharo, O Balama, Bhaiya Na Dharo, O Balama, Bhaiya Na Dharo, O Balama, Na Karo Musrar, Bhaiya Na Dharo, O Balama, ढलेगी चुनरिया तन से, ढलेगी चुनरिया तन से, तन से, तन से, ढलेगी चुनरिया तन से, हंसेंगी रे चूड़िया छन से, हंसेंगे रे चूड़िया छन से हंसेंगे रे चूड़िया छन से, मचेगी झनकार, भैया ना धरो, ओ बलवा, भैया ना धरो, ना धरो, ना धरो, ओ बलवा.
Spellbound we all are. And this is the clap that you really, really deserve, Aastha. And whenever I listen to you, I can say this here right now, that I'm a great fan of her singing, and she just takes me to another world altogether. Priya, isn't it? Priya ji,
Thank you
if
so
you're
Thank you.
audible,
Thank
yeah.
you so much, Aastha ji. It was beautiful listening to you and sharing the space with Rakhee ji and Her World India. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
having us
Priya ji.
over.
Thank you so much, Priya ji.